Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today, because we're tackling something that, well, let's be real, almost every single one of us has dealt with at some point. I'm talking about that incredibly frustrating, universal feeling of working your tail off, making a decent living, but somehow still feeling completely broke by the 20th of the month. You know exactly what I mean, right? You put in the hours, you get that direct deposit, and then you blink and suddenly you're wondering how on earth you're going to stretch those last few bucks until the next payday. Well, today we're diving into the 50-30-20 budgeting blueprint from our source material. It's a remarkably simple method that might honestly just change how we look at our money forever.
So, where did my paycheck go? Man, it's a question that haunts millions of people every single month. And hey, I want to validate something for you right out of the gate. You probably aren't blowing all your cash on fancy European vacations or wild weekend shopping sprees at luxury boutiques, right? You're just living a normal life. You're paying your bills, and yet somehow that paycheck still just magically vanishes into thin air. It is so demoralizing to feel like you're working just to watch your money slip right through your fingers with nothing to show for it. It honestly makes you feel like you're doing something fundamentally wrong.
But here is the absolute truth that our source material unpacks so beautifully. The problem usually isn't the spending itself. No, it's the fact that you don't have a system. You just don't have a set of rules telling every single dollar exactly where it's supposed to go before it even hits your bank account. See, a lot of people hear the word budget and boom, they instantly think of restrictions. They picture never eating out again or spending hours clipping coupons or punishing themselves for buying a simple cup of coffee. But a real budget, it isn't a restriction at all. It's a system. It's literally a tool for freedom that gives you permission to spend as long as it fits into the system.
Section 1. The 50-30-20 Rule Explained. Okay, let's dive into this incredibly effective system. Think of this as our roadmap for today. Now, this is widely considered one of the absolute simplest, most practical budgeting frameworks out there, mainly because it actually works in the real world. You don't need a finance degree, and you definitely don't need to track every single penny you drop into a parking meter. Under this framework, your after-tax income, meaning the money that actually hits your bank account, not your gross salary, is sliced up into just 3 distinct, super manageable buckets. You've got a 50% slice for your needs, a 30% slice for your wants, and a 20% slice for your savings and debt payoff. That's it. That's the whole framework. Instead of obsessively categorizing 40 different types of expenses, you're just funneling your cash into these 3 big buckets. So let's break down exactly what goes into each one so you can start categorizing your own life.
All right, so the biggest bucket is your needs, and that takes up 50% of your income. These are the absolute non-negotiable essentials required to live and work. We're talking about your rent or your mortgage. We're talking about basic groceries and, not necessarily artisanal organic truffles, but the actual food you need to survive. It covers your utilities, keeping the lights on, the water running, plus your basic health and car insurance. Oh, and it also includes the minimum payments on any debt you have, along with the transportation costs required to actually get you to your job. Think of it this way. If you lost your job tomorrow, these are the expenses you'd still absolutely have to figure out a way to pay. Half your income goes right here just to keep your foundation totally secure.
Next up, we have the 30% wants bucket. And I'll tell you, this is where the 50-30-20 rule really outshines traditional diets. Well, actually, scratch that. I mean budgets. This system actively budgets for fun. 30% of your money is completely dedicated to the enjoyable extras. This is dining out with your friends. This is your Netflix and Spotify subscriptions. It's funding your weekend hobbies, saving up for travel, or, grabbing that upgraded phone even when your old one is technically still working. Look, these are the things that make life rich and fun and enjoyable. But let's be totally honest with ourselves. They aren't strictly essential for survival. Having this designated 30% bucket means you actually get to enjoy these things entirely guilt-free because you already know they're accounted for in the system.
And that brings us to the final bucket, the 20% dedicated to savings and debt payoff. Guys, this is your financial future. This bucket is all about building your safety net and buying your future freedom. It is where you fund your emergency savings account so a random flat tire doesn't completely derail your life. It's where your retirement contributions go. And really importantly, this is where you aggressively tackle your debt well beyond those minimum payments we talked about back in the needs bucket. This 20% is what moves you forward. It's what stops you from just treading water and actually gets you swimming toward long-term wealth.
Section 2. Real dollars, real budget.
So, let's move along and see how this builds in the real world. Theories are great and all, but as focused learners, I know you want to see exactly how the math shakes out. We really need to ground this in a practical example to see just how effortless this framework can be once you have it set up. So, imagine for a second that you take home exactly $4,000 a month. And remember, we are talking about your net income here. The actual cash that drops into your checking account after taxes, after health insurance is taken out, all of it. a flat $4,000. Let's see what happens to that money when we apply our new blueprint. Watch how cleanly this works out. If you take home $4,000, your 50% needs bucket is exactly $2,000. That means your rent, your basic groceries, and those minimum bills cannot exceed $2,000 a month. Then your 30% wants bucket gives you $1,200 to play with. I mean, think about that. That is $1,200 for eating out, subscriptions, and hobbies, totally guilt-free. And finally, your 20% savings and debt payoff bucket means you are deliberately deploying $800 every single month straight toward your emergency fund, your retirement, or crushing those credit cards. The $4,000 just effortlessly drops right into 3 crystal clear financial targets. And the reason this matters so much is beautifully simple. 3 buckets, clear targets, 0 spreadsheets. You don't need to log into some complicated app every single night and categorize a $3 pack of gum. You just need to ensure your total essential standard $2,000, your fund money stays under $1,200, and you automate that $800 straight to savings and debt. It frees you from that terrifying 40-line item spreadsheet that makes most people completely abandon their budgets by week 2. It's macro management rather than micromanagement, and honestly, it's just a total breath of fresh air.
Section 3. Common budgeting mistakes.
Now, what's really interesting here is that while the math is undeniably simple, human psychology, well, that's tricky. The absolute biggest trap in this entire system is lying to ourselves, specifically misclassifying our wants as needs. Yes, groceries and utilities are absolute needs, but that premium fitness club with the eucalyptus towels, the 4 different streaming services you rotate through, that $5 daily iced coffee run? Come on. We tell ourselves we need these things to function, but they are absolutely disguised wants. Being brutally honest with yourself when dropping expenses into these buckets is literally the whole game. If you categorize a luxury as a need, you're going to bloat your 50% bucket and the whole system just falls apart.
And there are a few other major traps we need to quickly but energetically run through. Number 1, when money gets tight, it is so easy to let that 20% savings bucket shrink first. Don't do it. You absolutely must treat that 20% like a mandatory bill from your future self. It is not optional leftover money. Number 2, do not ignore high-interest debt. If you're carrying credit card debt at a 20% interest rate, paying that off aggressively inside your savings bucket is way more important than parking cash in a savings account earning a measly 4%. Attack the fire first. And number 3, don't be too rigid if you happen to live in a high cost of living area. If rent in your city easily eats up half your income on its own, while your needs might be 60%, and that's okay. Just adjust the ratios. The intentionality of actually having buckets matters way more than hitting the exact mathematical percentages.
Section 4. Taking control today.
So how do we bring all of this together? I want you to walk away from this explainer not just with new knowledge, but with an immediate, highly practical way to apply this framework to your own bank account right now. I really want you to absorb this quote from our source material. The 50-30-20 rule isn't about restriction, it's about giving every dollar a job before it disappears. This right here is the core takeaway. By utilizing this system, you are stepping into a place of ultimate financial empowerment. You're acting like the CEO of your own money. You aren't putting yourself in restrictive chains. You're directing traffic. You are making sure your money actually works for you rather than just scratching your head wondering where it all went at the end of the month. So here is your call to action. I challenge you to track your spending for just 1 month, just 30 days. And hey, don't worry about hitting the 50-30-20 target perfectly right away. Perfection is absolutely not required on day 1. Your only goal for the next 30 days is to just look at where your money is currently going, drop those expenses into the 3 buckets, and simply identify which bucket is out of balance. Are your needs taking up 70% of your income? Are your wants bleeding over into your savings? Just get the data. Because once you have the data, you have the power to actually change it. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Which of your financial buckets is out of balance today? Are you starving your savings? Are you overindulging in your wants? Or are your basic needs just way too expensive for your current income right now? Take a hard look at your last bank statement, drop those numbers into the 50, the 30, and the 20, and find out for yourself. The path to real financial clarity starts the exact moment you answer that question. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there and go give your dollars a job.